So can I ask you something? What makes you afraid? I mean, what really makes you afraid? What are you afraid of? And my next question to that is, how do you know that that fear is rational fear or irrational fear? This video is all about how do you know if your fear is legitimate or if it's irrational. And I think it's important to know the difference. My name is Cordray, and I'm a National Certified Therapist, and you're watching The Calm Files. So fear is something that we all have, and really we all need a certain amount of fear. It keeps us from getting harmed or doing crazy things that puts us or somebody else in jeopardy. But sometimes that fear gets so out of proportion and it's irrational, and it really doesn't do any good, except it just tears you apart, makes you worry, gives you anxiety, gives you depression, panic attacks, and that's what irrational fear does. So I wanted to do this video because so many people want to know, how do I know when my fear is legitimate and when my fear is not legitimate, when it's not called for, but my body overreacts, my mind overreacts, I overthink things. And so often the thing that I feared never comes true. So does that ever happen to you? Do you ever get afraid of something and panicky and a lot of anxiety about something that never happened, that you thought it was going to happen? Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. It's that irrational fear. Think of irrational fear. I like to do the 80-20 principle here. So let's say you are afraid of something, and maybe it's legitimate. Maybe you're in the middle of a highway and cars are coming at you and you're afraid. That's like 80% certainty that you're going to get hurt. That's legitimate fear, right? That's legitimate fear. But let's say that you're getting ready to go on an airplane and that you are afraid that the airplane is going to crash. But you have no reason to believe that. There's no reason, no evidence to say otherwise. That's the 20%. It may not happen. Below 20% and you're worried, you're fearful, that's irrational fear. Do airplanes crash? Sure. Yeah, they do, but not very often. There's way more car crashes than there are airplane crashes. But the thing is, you're focusing so much on that 20% what if. What if this happens? That's irrational fear. And when you allow that irrational fear to control you, then you're going to have panic. Then you're going to have anxiety. Then you're going to have depression. So you have to distinguish, is this 20% fear or is it 80% fear? Obviously, if it falls in that 80%, yes, this really could happen. Something bad can happen. I'm in the middle of the alley in New York City, middle of the night. Yes, you might fall in that 80% because something might happen, somebody might harm you. Okay, so that's legitimate fear. Get out of there. But if you're just sitting and thinking that the sky is going to fall, or I don't know, the ceiling's going to fall on your head, and it's never happened before, that falls in that 20% irrational fear. Do you see that? Do you see how irrational fear, even though it falls below that 20%, is it really going to happen? So often people live in that 20% fear, that irrational fear, and it never happens, but it controls their life. I don't want you to live in that 20% of fear and let it control your life, because you've got to get away from that. You have to recognize when you have irrational fear versus rational fear. So that's my tip for today. Figure out when you're afraid of something, I mean really afraid, something that might happen, the what ifs, the could haves, the could be's, those probably are the irrational fear, fall in that 20%, because you don't know what's going to happen, but you're afraid in the present, in the moment, of something that might happen in the future. That's irrational fear. So you got to figure out, determine, is your fear legitimate or is it irrational? And if it's legitimate, do something about it. Remove yourself from the situation, get help. But if it was irrational fear, then you have to realize, what do you need to do next? What's next? Don't fear, work through it. That's it for this edition of The Calm Files. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming back. And if you want below here, give me some comments. Let me know what are some of your fears. That would be great. I'd read them all. Bye.